It's Pro. Welcome back to another Final Cut Pro 10 tutorial. In today's video, I want to show you 7 clean music video effects for Final Cut Pro 10. The first effect is going to be this one here. If I push play, it's going to be this super smooth and clean freeze frame background kind of transition. So what I want to do is use this as a transition. So I'm going to use this beginning frame. We're going to move the keyframe at the very beginning. We're going to go to the top and go to edit, and we're going to go down to add freeze frame. And then from there, it's going to create a really long still image. So go ahead and zoom out, and it should look like this. So if I push play, it shouldn't move or anything like that. And then what you would want to do, click and drag upwards like that. And then you're going to drag it to the left and then go ahead and zoom in. And between this first area and the end of the first clip is how long the transition will be. Now, of course, because this is an image, we can always change the speed of it at the end when we create it as a compound clip. So just press Command B and then delete the end. From this area, all we got to do now is go to the effects, go down to the masks, and then add a draw mask onto the clip. And then from there, you would just simply make a selection of your subject. In this case, we're going to make a selection of our artist here. So we're going to click and drag, and then this will allow us to create a smooth curve. Okay, and then when you're finished, you're going to go to the very beginning of the first point. Go ahead and click on that, and then make sure you drag these points down so that there's no gap, which can happen if you don't do that. From this point, what we're going to do is pretty much make our animation. You can easily do that by going over to transform, and then at the very beginning, which is what we're going to do, we're going to add a keyframe here, and then go over to the inspector tab, go down to transform, and then move the X here and just drag it to the left if you want it to come in from the left side, or if you want it to come in from the right side, just move it to the right, and vice versa. So I'm going to drag this over to the right like that, and then I'm going to go to the very end and go one frame to the left, and then just type in 0 on the X, or if you use the Y, just type in 0 for that too, and then press enter. So now it's going to come in from the right side. So if I push play, it's going to look like this. Ignore the speed for now. We can always adjust that at the very end. From there, we're going to go over to the effects, and we're going to go to blur. Just click and drag the directional blur onto that freeze frame clip, and then increase the amount for the blur here. So I'm going to drag this to like 140 or something like that. So once we are at this point, what we can do is go to the end of that frame and then go 5 frames to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to add a keyframe next to amount here, and then go to the end and just bring this to 0. Once we are there, we need to add another keyframe in the middle. So right click on the freeze frame clip and go to show video animation. Next to transform, we're going to see there's the first point and then the last one here. We're going to drag the last one kind of like in the middle maybe. We're going to the transform. So we're going to go to the x-axis and we're going to drag this to the left. So over here. So now if we go to the end and go one frame to the left, we're now going to type in 0 and press enter, and then click done. This way, it kind of looks like this. And it's just a little bit more interesting, as you can see, so you can go back and kind of see it through. And then once you're there, if you want to adjust the speed, just right click on the video and go to new compounds clip. Now this will act as a single clip without any of the effects being affected. Press Command R to bring up the retiming option. And if you drag this slider to the left, this will increase the speed. Just make sure you drag this to the end like that so it always matches. So we're going to double click on the video here, press Command C to copy it and go back, and then you're going to paste this and just drag the video up above like that. And the reason we made a copy of the video and not the compounds clip is because anything we do with the compounds clip will affect the same compounds clip. So we're going to select the middle clip, take off the draw mask, and you can turn off the directional. So we're going to go over to transform and just make sure you reset this. So we're going to go down to transform. So add a keyframe at the beginning and then drag the X. Just drag this to the left, and then we're going to go to the end, go one frame to the left, and then just type in 0 for X, or Y if you have Y, and click done. So now if I push play, it's going to look like this. And again, we're going to change the speed at the end, so ignore this for now. All we're going to do is go to masks and then go to graduated mask and then add that onto the second clip, which is this one, and then skim through until you can see the on-screen controls. Click the target one and then just make sure that this is kind of locked in the middle. Do the same for the other one, and then now just drag it in like this so that you don't see this line here. And then at this point, it should look something like this. Now what we can do is right click on the video, go to new compounds clip, and we're going to name this video 2. So now we can press Command R and then bring this inwards to increase the speed. So now they change the way that they enter. Now if I go back, what we're going to do is pretty much make it shake at the beginning. So go to transform, and then from this area, we're going to add a keyframe. So add a keyframe here. Always add it here. It just adds it to all of them. And then we're going to skip 2 frames. So 1, 2, increase the scale a little bit like that. Go 1, 2, skip 2 frames. And then just shift it to the left a little bit, but not so much that you can see the black background. So something like this, alternating left and right. And then on this frame, we're going to type in 0 for X, 0 for Y, and 100 for all under scale, and then click done. So now it'll look something like this. This is the original video here from Melvoni, but if I push play, it looks like this, and then this is my take on it. Alright guys, so what you want to do is have the video that you want to use to create the effect. I'm going to use this one here, and what I'm going to do is make a copy, so hold Option and drag upwards. I'm just name this Start 1, just so I can keep track of each layer. This is going to be the one that we're going to be working on. The background is just for backup. So we're going to select the top clip, and then we're going to go over to the effects, and then we're going to go over to the under stylize, and then you're going to add the bad TV effect onto the clip. So just drag it there, or you can also double click the effect also. And then what you're going to do from here is just bring down the amount to 9, and then you're going to change the static type to TV static, and now it should look like this. And then we're going to go ahead and hold Option and drag upwards to make another copy, and we're going to rename this one to Start 2. So just press enter. So we're going to go to the blur, and then we're going to add a Gaussian blur, so add that onto the top clip, and then just bring the amount down quite a bit. And then you're going to change the blend mode down to screen or like light in or something like that. From here, we're just going to select both of those clips, so Start 1 and Start 2, or whatever you named them. And then once they're both highlighted, just right click on one of them and click on New Compounds Clip. And then I'm going to name this Combined, I guess, and click OK. Go to the effects and then add the draw mask now like that. And make a selection. So again, the better the selection, the better it's going to look. And just go really rough with this, like kind of like that. And then once I make my selection, I'm going to drag it down like a little bit here. And then I'm going to go ahead and invert the mask so that's the opposite. And then I'm going to increase the feather quite a bit here so that it kind of bleeds into the bottom clip here. From this area, I'm just going to add a keyframe next to control points. And I'm also going to add them next to position, rotation, and scale. So now we're going to go and keyframe backwards to those frames that we didn't get. And you can be kind of rough with this one because it kind of goes really fast. Alright guys, so I just finished keyframing here. As you can see, it didn't take that much time. I just really sped through it. And as long as you increase the feather quite a bit, you should be able to kind of blend that nicely. But for the sake of the tutorial, this is kind of what we got. So if I push play, this honestly looks amazing. Now, we can, of course, get the VHS to look a lot more realistic. I'm going to be using this one. It's called the mMusic Video plugin by Motion VFX. Link is going to be in the description down below if you guys want to check it out. They definitely look awesome for music videos, specifically this one, but they have a bunch of other ones that you guys can use. They have like titles, overlays, effects, and so much more. We're going to add the VHS effect that's included in this plugin under the effects. If you go to titles, and it's going to be under titles here. So if I just drag it right above, and if you click on the title, you can go over to the title here under the parameters, and they have a whole bunch of other settings here. So if I push play, you can go over to the aspect ratio and change that back to project size. Kind of keep the frame the same, and you can also play around with all of these settings here to kind of get it to the desired result that you want. And then now the effect is pretty much replicated here. As you can see, I just created a mask over it. So this is the before without the mask, and then this is with the mask applied, and it just kind of creates a little bit more of an interesting effect. And you can also add their transitions too. If you go to transitions and go to the mMusic Video, you can really stylize this. So if I group them together, and now we can add a transition, so we can add like transition 2, and if we add that to the end and we have like another clip here, it would look really cool. So it would look kind of like this. So if I extend this out, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the transform. I want it to start about halfway, so I want the effect to start right here, so about halfway or so, and then add a keyframe, and then you can go all the way to the end, one frame to the left, and then you go over to the position under X, click and drag this and move it to the left. You should see a red line. Make sure that you move the video completely out of the frame so you don't see any of this. It should look something like this. super smooth because there's only 2 keyframes. Now we're going to do the same thing on the second clip. So we're going to go over to transform, and at the beginning here now we're actually going to add a keyframe, and we're going to start this off on the right side. So we're going to click and drag and move the x-axis to the opposite side. The middle here, we're going to type in under x, just type in 0 and press enter. So this way it starts from the right side here. Let me show you what's going on. It's going to go from the right side, it's going to come in, and it's going to stop in the middle. First video is going to start in the middle at the very beginning, and then it's going to move to the left side. So you're just kind of doing it like this, okay? We're going to add a graduated mask so we can kind of get rid of this line here. So we're just going to go over to the effects. We're going to go down to the masks, and then we're going to add a graduated mask, or kind of like a soft feather, in other words. So we're just going to drag that onto there, and then we're going to go to the beginning. We're going to drag this one here, which should be the center point. Click and drag this into the middle here, and then you're going to drag the target all the way to the right side like this. So now if we go through, it's going to completely get rid of that line. Do the same thing for the second clip. Just add a graduated mask, kind of go through here where you can see the full video, and then drag the center on-screen control in the middle, and then drag this one, which is the target. You can see here, that's the target. We're going to move this one over to the left side. So it's kind of like the opposite. All you're going to do is just click and drag this above our video here. So now if I go back and push play, it'll look like this. Now we're going to go to the beginning of the first clip, make sure it's selected, and we're going to add a keyframe for everything here. And then we're going to move the center point over to the right side. Right about here is where we can move this point over now, so that it kind of slowly kind of comes in, it kind of fades out. With the graduated mask selected, just add a keyframe, and then go to the end of that clip, and then move this all the way over to the left. And now it should look something like this. And then we're going to do the same thing for the second clip, which is this one. So at the beginning of that one, we're going to go over to the graduated mask. Right where it ends, which is about here, we're actually going to add a couple of keyframes to all of these here under amount, target, and center. And then you're going to skip those frames where it stops, which is here. And you're going to move the centerpiece all the way to the left side. Last but not least, we're going to add a directional blur to make this look a lot more realistic. So go to the blur under video and add directional blur onto both of those clips. Once it starts to move, we're going to add a keyframe for amount and angle. And at this keyframe, we're going to type in 0 for amount. And then we're going to skip maybe 10 frames or so. And then we're going to bring this amount to like 22 because it's not moving that much. So we're going to skip a couple frames. Should look something like this. And then the second shot, which is this one here, we're going to do the same thing. So add a directional blur onto that clip. We're going to start this off at 122 actually. So now it should be really smooth there. And then once it starts to end, I'm going to go about here and add a keyframe. On this frame, I'm going to type in 0 for amount. So now it should gradually fade out. And then now we should be able to see the finished result. So if I push play, just like that, super clean. And so you're going to have 2 clips in the timeline. Ideally, you want them to be completely different. What you're going to do is you're going to select the first clip here, and we're going to go over to the transform button right here. Just click on the transform, and then I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go, I don't know, 20 frames or so, maybe 30 frames. But we're going to go ahead and add a keyframe. And what we're going to do is we pretty much want the frame to move to the left side. Let's go to the end and go 1 frame to the left. And then you're going to go over to the inspector tab. Next to position under X, you're just going to click and drag this over to the left. So now it should look something like this. And then we're going to go to the beginning here. We're going to go back to the transform tool, and then we're going to add a keyframe, go all the way to the middle where it begins to move. But just before it begins to move, we're going to go 1 frame to the left, and then we're going to go to scale and just bring this down and press OK. Right click on the video, go to show video animation. We're going to make sure that this is also on 92. So go to the end and then type in 92. In the middle here, I'm also going to type in 92. And then this way it stays the same, as you can see. So if I push play, it'll look like this. Okay, so once you have done that, we're going to select the second clip here, and we're going to do the same thing. Just go over to transform, click on the transform button, and then add a keyframe. We're going to start this off on the right side of the frame, so just drag this over to the right, and then we're going to kind of skip a couple frames to maybe about here, and then we're going to just type in 0 and press enter. So now if we go back and we push play, let's go to the scale all at the beginning and type in 92% and press enter. And then once it's about here, I'm going to add another keyframe under scale all, and I'm going to skip a couple of frames and then type in 100. So now it'll look a lot smoother, as you can see. So it'll look kind of like this. And if you think this is too fast, just right click and then go to show video animation, and then feel free to extend this out a lot longer if you want. So now once we have that, we're just simply going to click and drag this and move it right underneath so that it shows the next clip come in like this. So now if I push play, it's going to look just like that. And then from here, what you can do is pretty much group them. Select both of them, press Option G or right click and click on New Compounds clip. I'm gonna go back to the mMusic video by Motion VFX. Again, link is in the description. Dust and scratches, I'm gonna drag that one right above. And the cool thing is you just click and drag and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. This looks really cool. And then I'm also gonna add a vintage look one. I think this one looks really cool. It almost looks like it's glowing. It's gonna look just like this. Alright guys, so what you want to do for this one is have two clips in the timeline. So I'll have the first one here, and then the second shot is going to be this one. So what I want to do is use the first clip at the end of that frame. What we're going to do is at this frame, go at the top, go to edit, and then go down to add freeze frame. And then kind of like before, we're just going to kind of move this up and then kind of reduce the length of the clip. Go to masks and add a draw mask. And then what we're going to do is just pretty much make a selection of our subject. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that right now. And it should look something like this. And then feel free to kind of create a feather either inwards or outwards. I'm going to feather inwards just a tad. Go to the beginning, go to the crop button. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click on the Ken Burns button. So just make sure that the green line here is exactly the same frame as the video. And then the one here where it says end, we're going to scale this all the way down as small as you can get it. And then you can move it either like this way or like over here. I'm going to go like just right over his shoulder. So I'm going to make this small and make sure I drag it over like that over the black area and then just click done. And then now if I go and I push play, it's going to look like this. What we're going to do is just make a copy. So hold Option, drag downwards to make a copy. Select the clip and then right click and go to New Compounds clip and then go ahead and give it a name. And now go to the effects, distortion under video, and then go to the trails at the bottom here and then add that onto the grouped clip. And now you're going to notice we can kind of play around with the duration and the echoes. Of course, you can create like a blur. If you just go over to blur and then add like a Gaussian blur to this, and it'll kind of create like a glowing effect. You can also add a directional blur to the main clip. So just go to blur and then go to directional and add that there. Alright guys, so this one is super simple. So you're going to have your first clip here and then the other scene here. So you want to add a transition between these 2 points. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to go 30 frames to the left. So if you hold shift and then left on the arrow key, this will go 10 frames to the left. And if you hold shift and then the right key, that will go 10 frames to the right. We're gonna press shift left 3 times from the middle and that'll be 30 frames. And then from here, you're gonna select the clip and then go over to transform. And then I like to add a keyframe over here instead of under the transform just because it just adds it to all of them quicker. And then we're gonna go to the end and go 1 frame to the left. And then we're gonna drag the x-axis over. So then we'll just drag it like this. And I kind of want him to stay in the frame like this. Click done. So it should look kind of like this, super smooth. We're gonna right click on the video and go to New Compounds clip. I'm gonna name it video 1 and press OK. So now it acts as a single clip. We're gonna go over to the effects and then under the video, we're gonna go to tiling and then we're gonna add Kaleido title, or you can also go to under distortion. And then if you go down, you're gonna be able to find the mirror effect. I think this one's easier to use. So I'm just gonna drag this one onto the first clip. And then if you click on mirror, if the black is on the left side, then you wanna make sure that this is at 0 degrees. Type in 180 degrees and this will now be on the opposite side. We're gonna go to the beginning here and then we're not gonna start this until the 30 frames. So an easy way to do that is just go back to the middle and then go back to that 30 frames. And then this is where we can start to move it, as you can see. So we're going to go back though about here because it does kind of smooth out those frames. So we're just going to go over to mirror and then we're going to add a keyframe next to angle and then next to center. And then we're going to go frame by frame and just move this over so that we don't see the black background. So take your time with this. You can also skip a bunch of frames and then move it over. Then go back and make sure that no black line is showing. Perfect. So now it should look like this. It just kind of pushes it very smoothly. And then we're going to do the same thing on this clip here. So we're going to start this now on the left side. We're going to add a keyframe again, and then move the x-axis to the left this time. And it's going to be a little bit hard to see this line here, but it's right there in case you guys need to see it. Go 30 frames now to the right. So shift right on the arrow key 3 times, and that takes you to 30 frames. And then if you go over to the x-axis and just type in 0 and press enter, this will go back to the original frame. So it should look like this. We got to make this a grouped clip. So right click, go to New Compounds clip, video 2, and then we can go over to the effects, distortion, and then add the mirror effect onto video 2. Then drag this over. We're gonna have to rotate this. So under angle, type in 180 and press enter. This will be on the other side here. So it'll be mirrored on the right side. And then now I'm gonna add a keyframe under center, and angle. And then again, go 30 frames in, and then we can just move this over. So now it should look like this, super seamless. All we got to do is add that kind of black figure over it. And it's very simple. Just go over to the titles over here and then go to generators. And then you're going to go to solids, and they're going to add the custom generator solid above your timeline. Split this and delete the rest. So I kind of want it to start from the 30 frames right there. And then here, 1, 2, 3, that's going to be a total of 60 frames. So about almost 2 seconds, and go over to the effects, go down to masks, and then just add the shape mask onto that one. Now I want to go over here on the on-screen controls. You're going to see a little kind of gray circle, drag that inwards or outwards, depending how you want this effect to look. And then we're going to increase the feather quite a bit. And then under transforms, go to scale and scale this up quite a bit. Move this over out of the frame, and they're going to add a keyframe here. I decided to just use 2 keyframes. So the beginning here is going to start at the left side out of the frame, and then it's going to go all the way to the other side. So just drag it over to the other side and then move it out of the frame. So this way it makes it as simple as possible, and it makes it super smooth, and then just increase the feather a lot to get it to kind of like this look here. Alright guys, so we have the first clip here. We're going to be using this money stack here. You can use anything as long as you can like mask through it, then that'll work. So like say he didn't have his money, but say he had like letters on his jacket or something, you could actually use the letter to use this effect. And I'm going to go over to edit and add freeze frame. Let's see how long we want this effect to last. We can do 50 frames, play through, it'll stop. And then here you can, of course, just delete this, or you can resume it if you want, but I think we're going to get rid of it. And then we're going to use this next shot underneath. You're going to select the top clip, which is the freeze frame clip, and go over to the effects. You're going to go down to masks and then add the draw mask onto that clip. Then you're going to make a selection of the area that you want to mask through. So I'm going to zoom in to like 150. And then I'm going to make a selection here, just 4 points, just to make this easy. If your object is really weirdly shaped, feel free to create those curves. Keep in mind it's going to be a little bit more work, but it'll just look fantastic in the end. So it's all definitely worth it. But I'm going to go and click on the first point to finish the path, and I'm going to click invert mask to be able to see through the video. So everything is shown except the area that we masked. What we can do from here is go to the beginning. I'm going to go to the draw mask. We're going to add a keyframe next to control points, and we're also going to add a keyframe next to the position under transforms. We're going to just drag this down, and then we're going to skip like 10 frames or so and then drag this up. If you have it spaced out, the longer the effect is going to take. And then from here, also going to feather this quite a bit inwards so that it looks a little bit more realistic. So it'll look like this. And if you think that's too slow, just right click and open up the animation here. Just extend this under the draw mask. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drag it all the way to the end. And then once you're happy with that, just go back to fit. We're going to go over to transform, click the down arrow and go to crop. And then we're going to go over to the Ken burns right here. The start is fine how it is, but for the end point, which is this red box, we're going to skip kind of a couple of frames, and then we're going to drag this in as small as we can get it so that it fits inside of this black area. So if you hold command, this will allow you to drag the Ken burn box here without it snapping. And then when you're happy, just click done. So now if we go back and we push play, that's the effect. And then of course we can go and add the light diffuse. I think this will kind of makes it a lot more interesting personally. So now it should look something like this if I push play with the glow effect. I think the glow effect just really ties it together. You don't have to use this. It's totally optional. You can also do this in Final Cut Pro. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like. That just really helps the channel out. I will catch you guys next time.